Do you know what it feels like to hear laughter in the distance and realize it no longer belongs to you? To stand at the edge of a family gathering, unseen, like a ghost among the living. That was the night I understood. My place in my children's lives had vanished. It happened on my 79th birthday. I had dressed carefully, wearing the same pale blue shawl my late husband once said made my eyes shine. I sat in the corner of Clara's living room, surrounded by balloons, cake, and chatter, yet not one person truly looked at me. They laughed, they clinked glasses, they shared stories I wasn't part of. I was there in body, but not in spirit. And then it happened. My grandson, a boy I once cradled in my arms when he was no bigger than a loaf of bread, leaned toward his mother and asked, "Why do we even have to celebrate? She doesn't remember half of us anyway." The room fell silent for just a breath, but that single sentence was enough to split my heart in two. Clara shushed him quickly, but she didn't deny it. And in that moment, I felt the weight of every year, every sacrifice, every sleepless night I had endured for the family gathered before me. I wanted to stand, to scream. I remember everything. I remember every tear I wiped from your cheeks, every fever I nursed through the night, every dream I gave up so you could chase your own. But my voice failed me. I simply sat there, staring at the flickering candles on the cake, wondering when I had become nothing more than an obligation. Later that evening, as the guests drifted away and the laughter faded, Clara approached me with a tight smile. "Mama, you should rest. You get tired so easily now." I nodded, too weary to argue, but inside my chest burned. Tired? Perhaps. Old? Yes. But forgotten? That was a wound no rest could heal. When they drove me home, I sat by the window of the car, watching the blur of streetlights. I thought of the years I had spent building this family, piece by piece, sacrificing everything so they would never know hunger or fear. And now, they looked at me as though I were fading ink on a page no one cared to read anymore. But here's the truth I have never spoken out loud. I am not fading. I am not empty. I carry a secret, a truth buried so deep in my past that even my children don't know it. And if they ever learn it, they will never see me the same again. That night, when I returned to my quiet home, I opened the old wooden chest at the foot of my bed. Inside lay a collection of letters, yellowed with age, bound together by a ribbon I had tied with trembling fingers decades ago. Letters from a time before my children were born. Letters from a man whose name they have never heard. I traced the fading ink with my fingers, my heart pounding as though I were that young girl again, caught between love and survival. I had buried these letters to protect them, to protect myself. But now, as my family slips further away from me, I wonder if it is time to let the truth rise from the dust. For secrets, no matter how carefully hidden, always demand to be told. And mine is heavy enough to break what little remains of this family.
Part 2. The letters were fragile, their edges frayed, their words fading. Yet to me, they burned brighter than any fire. Each line carried me back to a time when I was not Mama, not Grandma, but simply Nuria, a young girl with hope in her eyes and love in her heart. I was 17 when I first met him. His name was Daniel, a boy with laughter in his voice and dreams bigger than the sky above our little town. He was not rich, not powerful, but he made me feel like I mattered. When he looked at me, I was no longer the poor girl scrubbing laundry at the river. I was a woman worthy of being loved. We would meet in secret, away from my parents' watchful eyes. He wrote me letters because he said words on paper could last longer than words whispered into the night. In those letters, he promised me a life beyond the dirt roads and broken roofs of our village. He spoke of a small home filled with music, children, and peace. He wrote that no matter what happened, he would never leave me. But promises are fragile. One evening, he placed my hands in his and told me he had to go. Work in the city, he said, money to earn, opportunities to chase. He said, "I'll come back for you, Maria. Wait for me. I'll write every week." And he did write at first. His letters came often, filled with longing and plans for the future. I clung to each word like a lifeline. But then, slowly, the letters grew fewer. Weeks stretched into months. His words became shorter, colder, until one day they stopped altogether. I never saw him again. By the time I turned 18, I discovered the consequence of our love. I carried his child. Alone, frightened, and shamed by whispers, I faced the hardest decision of my life. My parents, already burdened with poverty, insisted I give the baby away. They told me I was too young, too weak, that the child would suffer with me. And so, with tears burning my cheeks, I placed my newborn son into the arms of strangers. I kissed his forehead once, whispering his name, a name no one else would ever know, and watched as he was carried out of my life. That was the day my heart broke forever. I buried the truth under silence. When I later met the man who became my husband, I told him nothing. He believed me pure, unscarred, untouched by tragedy. I built a new life, raised David and Clara, poured all my love into them. And for years, I told myself the past was gone. But the past never truly disappears. It lingers, waiting for cracks in the walls you build. And now, as I sit with these letters in my lap, those cracks are widening. Because I know something my children don't. The boy I gave away grew up. He may still be alive. And if he ever comes searching, what will happen when my two worlds collide? I pressed the bundle of letters to my chest and wept into the silence of my empty room. I thought of David's stern face, Clara's sharp words, their growing distance from me. Would they understand if I told them the truth? Or would they hate me, abandon me completely, leaving me with nothing but regret? The house was quiet, yet I could almost hear Daniel's voice in the stillness, whispering the same promise he once wrote on paper. "I'll come back for you." But he never did. Instead, all I have left are these letters, this secret, and the heavy question pressing on my soul. If my children discover what I've hidden all these years, will they still call me their mother?
For years, I believed silence was protection. If I buried the truth deep enough, maybe it would never reach the light. But silence is not protection, it is poison. And lately, I can feel it seeping through the cracks in my life, infecting the little love that still remains between me and my children. It began with Clara. She visited last week, her sharp eyes scanning my kitchen as though she could read secrets in the walls. "Mama," she said, her voice edged with impatience, "you seem distracted. You hardly eat. You sit by the window like you're waiting for someone. Is there something you're not telling me?" I forced a laugh, brittle as glass. "I'm just tired, child. Old bones don't carry as they used to." But Clara's frown deepened. She has always been the one who sees too much.
"It's more than that," she said. "Sometimes I feel like you're here with us, but your heart is somewhere else." She placed her hand on mine, and for a brief moment I thought, tell her everything. Let her be the daughter who understands. But fear held me back. Instead, I pulled my hand away and changed the subject. I saw the disappointment in her eyes, the walls rising higher between us. Then came David. Always the practical one, the provider, the man who believes truth is black and white. He called me 2 nights ago. "Mama," he said, his tone clipped, "Clara thinks you're hiding something. Is it money? Is it your health? Tell me the truth so I can fix it." How could I tell him that the thing broken was not my body nor my finances, but the past itself? That I had once loved another man, borne his child and given that child away. David, who values honesty above all things, would he ever forgive such a lie of omission? So I lied again. "I'm fine, son. Just a little lonely, that's all." But even as I said it, I knew he didn't believe me. His sigh was heavy, weighted with suspicion. "Mama, secrets don't help anyone. If you're keeping something from us, it will come out eventually." His words pierced me. He doesn't know how right he is. That night, I sat at my table with Daniel's letters spread before me. The ink had faded, but the emotions were alive, raw, burning through me. I traced the promises he once made, promises that had crumbled into dust, and I wondered if Michael, the son I gave away, ever found someone who kept their promises. I tried to sleep, but nightmares came. I dreamed of Clara and David standing over me, their faces twisted with disgust. "You're not our mother. You're a liar. You gave away your first child. How could you ever claim to love us?" I woke gasping, my pillow wet with tears. The next morning I told myself I would burn the letters. If I destroyed them, maybe the past would stay buried. I carried the bundle into the yard, my hands shaking as I struck a match. The flame flickered, catching the ribbon, licking at the paper. But just as I was about to drop them into the fire, Clara's voice rang out, "Mama, what are you doing?" I froze, the match burning my fingers. Clara stood in the doorway, her eyes wide, her expression a mix of confusion and fear. "Are those letters?" she asked, stepping closer. "From who?" My hands trembled. The flame sputtered and died, leaving a wisp of smoke curling into the air. I clutched the letters to my chest, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would break through my ribs. Clara's voice softened, almost pleading. "Mama, please, tell me the truth." For a moment, I wanted to. I wanted to spill everything. About Daniel, about the baby, about the shame that has haunted me for decades. But then I saw the reflection of myself in her eyes. Not a mother, not a grandmother, but a stranger. And I knew, if I spoke the truth now, I might lose her forever. So I shook my head, clutching the letters tighter. "Not now, Clara. Please, not now." Her face hardened. "If you won't tell me, I'll find out myself." She turned and stormed back inside, leaving me trembling in the yard, the ashes of the half-burned ribbon at my feet. I stared at the letters in my hands, the past refusing to die. And in that moment, I realized the choice was slipping from me. Whether I was ready or not, the truth was clawing its way into the light.
"The air in my house has changed. It used to be filled with the smell of tea and the ticking of the old clock. Now it feels heavy, tense, like even the walls know I'm running out of time. Clara hasn't spoken to me since that day in the yard. When she left, she didn't hug me, didn't kiss my cheek. She only said, 'Secrets always come out, Mama.' Her words echo in every corner of this house." The following evening, David arrived without warning. He stood in my doorway with his jaw tight, his eyes scanning me as though I were a puzzle he intended to solve. Clara called me, he said. She's worried. She said she saw you burning something. My throat tightened. It was nothing, I lied. Just old papers. David's eyes narrowed. Old papers don't make a woman cry the way Clara said you cried. What's going on, Mama? Tell me the truth. I wanted to speak. I wanted to let the dam break and let the truth flood out. But my tongue refused. My body, so frail and tired, still clung to silence like it was the last shield I had left. David stepped closer, lowering his voice. Mama, I've always respected you. You taught me to be honest, to face problems instead of hiding from them. But now I see you hiding, and it scares me. What are you so afraid of? I looked into his eyes that once lit up with joy when I read him bedtime stories, eyes that once trusted me without question. Now those eyes held suspicion, even a trace of anger. And I thought, if I tell him, those eyes will never look at me with love again. So I whispered, Please, David, trust me a little longer. He shook his head, his voice hard. Trust goes both ways. If you won't let us in, we'll find out without you. And then he left, just like Clara. That night, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, clutching Daniel's letters to my chest. The ink was fading, but the truth inside them was alive, screaming to be spoken. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Michael, the baby I gave away, his tiny fists clenched, his cries filling my ears. Did he grow into a man who wondered about me? Did he hate me for leaving him? I whispered into the night, Forgive me, my son. I thought I was saving you. The next morning, as I sat in the kitchen with the letter spread before me, there was a knock at the door. My heart leapt, part of me hoping it was Clara or David, ready to forgive. But when I opened it, I found a stranger, a man in his 30s, tall, with eyes so piercingly familiar that my knees nearly buckled. He held a small envelope in his hands. He asked softly, Are you Maria? My lips trembled. Yes. He placed the envelope in my hands. My father asked me to give this to you. I stared at him, my heart pounding. His father? Could it be? Before I could speak, he turned and walked away, leaving me trembling in the doorway. I looked down at the envelope, my name written in handwriting I hadn't seen in decades. My hands shook so violently I could barely open it. Inside was a letter, faded, but clear enough to read, and the first line sent a shock through my entire body. Maria, if our son ever comes searching for you, please tell him the truth. I clutched the letter to my chest, gasping for breath, because in that moment I realized my secret child, my Michael, might already be looking for me.
The letter trembled in my hands, as though it carried a heartbeat of its own. Daniel's words, written so many decades ago, felt alive, clawing at my soul. If our son ever comes searching for you, please tell him the truth. I read that line over and over, my tears blurring the ink. He had known, even then, that the past would not stay buried. He had known that one day the child I gave away might come knocking, demanding answers. And now I feared that day had come. For hours I sat in silence, the envelope on the table before me, the house so quiet I could hear the ticking of the clock like a hammer against stone. Every sound from the street made my heart leap. Footsteps, car doors, laughter. Was it him? Was Michael already closer than I imagined? That night, I barely slept. I dreamt of a young man standing at my door, his face shadowed, his voice breaking as he asked, "Why, Mama? Why did you give me away?" I woke with a scream caught in my throat, the room filled only with my ragged breathing. The next morning, Clara came again. She didn't bother knocking. She walked straight in, her eyes scanning the kitchen like a detective. On the table lay Daniel's letter, half hidden beneath a dishcloth. My heart jolted, but it was too late. She saw it. "What's this?" she asked sharply, picking it up before I could stop her. She frowned at the handwriting, the faded paper. "Who is Daniel? Why does he write about a son?" Panic surged through me. I snatched the letter back, clutching it to my chest. "It's nothing," I stammered. "Just old nonsense." Clara's voice rose, her hands trembling. "Stop lying to me, Mama. I saw the words, 'our son.' What does that mean? Do we have a brother? Do we have someone out there we've never known?" Her voice cracked, and for a moment she looked less like a grown woman and more like the little girl who once clung to my skirts, begging for stories. My heart ached. I wanted to pull her into my arms, confess everything, beg her forgiveness, but fear sealed my lips. "Clara," I whispered, "please, not yet." Her eyes filled with tears. "Not yet? Mama, you've had a lifetime. Do you know what it feels like to realize your mother has kept something this huge from you? You say you love us, but how can I believe that if you hide the truth of who we are?" Before I could answer, she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. I sank into my chair, my chest heaving, clutching the letter like a lifeline. But before I could even breathe, the phone rang. It was David. His voice was tight, clipped. "Clara just called me. She said you're hiding a letter. She said something about another child. Tell me it isn't true, Mama. Tell me she misunderstood." I closed my eyes, my tears spilling. My silence spoke louder than words. David's breath caught. His voice broke into a whisper. "Oh God, it's true." I heard him slamming the phone down, leaving me alone in the ringing silence. I pressed my forehead to the table and sobbed, the letter crumpling in my fist. The truth I had buried for decades was no longer mine to control. My children knew enough to unravel it, and soon the rest would come crashing down. And somewhere out there, my Michael, my lost son. If Clara and David found him first, I could lose all of them in one cruel moment. After David hung up, the silence in my house felt heavier than ever before. It was no longer the gentle quiet of solitude. It was the storm before destruction. My children knew, not the whole truth, but enough to tear apart the fragile image of the mother they thought they had. I sat at the table until dawn, Daniel's letter clutched in my trembling hands. His words haunted me. "If our son ever comes searching for you, please tell him the truth." But what if I was too late? The thought struck me with a force that left me breathless. Michael could already be near. Clara and David, with their sharp questions and stubborn pride, could reach him before I did. If that happened, what story would he hear? That I was a coward? That I abandoned him because I did not love him? I could not let that be the truth. For the first time in decades, I forced myself to do something I had always avoided. I opened the old wooden chest again, not for the letters, but for the address. Daniel had written it on the back of one envelope years ago, an address in the city where he said he might someday bring our son if life turned cruel. I traced the faded ink, my vision blurring with tears. Was it still valid? Could Michael be there? I didn't know, but it was all I had. I folded the envelope carefully, placed it in my bag, and wrapped my shawl around my shoulders. My legs trembled as I stepped outside. The morning air was cold, sharp, biting at my thin skin, but I pressed forward. Every step felt like defiance against the silence that had imprisoned me for so long. At the bus stop, I felt the stares of strangers. A hunched old woman clutching a worn bag, her eyes darting like a thief. They could never guess the storm in my chest, the decades of secrets unraveling with every breath. On the ride into the city, my thoughts swirled. I imagined Michael's face, though I had never seen it grown. Did he look like me? Did he carry Daniel's smile, that mischievous tilt of the lips? Did he know he was loved, even if from a distance? And then darker questions clawed at me. Did he hate me? Did he curse my name? Would he slam the door in my face if I found him? By the time the bus rolled into the city, my hands were ice, my heart hammering so loud I thought it might break free. I followed the faded address, my feet dragging me through streets lined with memories I didn't have, toward a building worn and crumbling with age. I stood before the door, clutching the paper so tightly my knuckles whitened. My voice trembled as I whispered to myself, "This is it, Maria. Either you face him or you lose him forever." I raised my hand to knock, but before my knuckles touched the wood, the door opened. A man stood there. His hair was dark, streaked with gray, his eyes piercing, familiar in a way that stole my breath. For a moment, I couldn't move. It was like looking into a mirror of my past, a reflection of Daniel's face staring back at me. The man's brow furrowed. "Can I help you?" My lips parted, but no words came. My throat closed, my breath caught. I wanted to say, "I'm your mother," but all that came out was a broken whisper. "I think I knew your father." The man's expression changed, suspicion flashing in his eyes. "My father? Who are you, old woman?" I clutched the envelope to my chest, my heart pounding, because I knew, in that instant, I had found him. Michael, the son I gave away. And now, I had to tell him the truth, or lose him forever. I stood frozen in that doorway, staring at the face of the son I had lost. Michael's eyes, my eyes, narrowed at me, guarded, suspicious. He didn't know me, yet I knew him with every trembling bone in my body. I knew your father," I whispered again, my voice weak, my heart pounding so loud I feared he could hear it. Michael's jaw tightened. "Lots of people knew my father. Who are you really?" My lips quivered. The words I had rehearsed for decades stuck like thorns in my throat. How do you tell a man that you are the mother who abandoned him? How do you offer love to someone you once gave away? "I was close to him," I said carefully, tears filling my eyes. "He loved you very much, more than anything." Michael's eyes darkened. "Don't talk about love. My father never spoke of my mother. He died with that silence. Do you know how that feels? To grow up without answers? Without her? Whoever she was, she didn't love me enough to stay." Each word was a blade, slicing into me. I wanted to cry out, "I did love you! I still do!" But guilt crushed me into silence. Then suddenly, behind me came a familiar voice, sharp, trembling, angry. "Mama?" I turned. Clara stood at the end of the hallway, David beside her. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide with shock. Clara's hand shook as she pointed at Michael. "Is it true? Is this him? Our brother?" The room spun. My secret, the one I had carried for a lifetime, was no longer mine. My children had followed me. The past and present had collided. I broke down, falling to my knees, clutching the envelope to my chest. Yes, I cried. Yes, it's true. He is my son, my firstborn, the child I gave away, the child I never stopped loving. The silence that followed was unbearable. Clara gasped, her face crumpling with hurt. David's fists clenched at his sides, his jaw rigid with anger. And Michael, his eyes filled with tears, but his face remained stone. You are my mother? He whispered. I reached out with trembling hands. Yes, Michael, I am. Forgive me, please. I was young, poor, and afraid. They told me you'd have a better life without me. But not a day has passed that I have not carried you in my heart. Michael stared at me, his breath uneven, his hands curling into fists. All these years, he whispered, you let me live thinking I was unwanted. You could have found me. You could have tried. Tears streamed down my face. I was a coward. I thought keeping silent would protect everyone, but silence only destroyed us all. The three of them stood before me, my children, bound by blood, divided by secrets. Their eyes burned into me, demanding answers, demanding love, demanding truth. And I realized the next words I spoke would either break us forever or begin to heal the wounds of a lifetime. The silence in that narrow hallway felt like a grave. Claire's breathing was ragged. David's eyes burned with betrayal, and Michael stood stiff as stone, his fists trembling at his sides. My heart, already fragile, felt as though it would shatter into 1,000 pieces. I gave you away, I whispered, my voice shaking. But not because I didn't love you. I loved you too much. I was 17, poor, powerless. My parents said I would ruin your life if I kept you. They said you deserved better. I thought I was saving you, but instead, I doomed us both. Michael's face twisted with anger. You let strangers raise me. Do you know what that felt like? Every birthday, every lonely night, I wondered who my mother was. I imagined you searching for me, but you never came. His words pierced my chest like knives. My knees buckled, but I forced myself to meet his gaze. I searched for you in my prayers, Michael. I whispered your name to the stars, to the silence. I carried you with me in every breath, in every heartbeat. But I was weak. I chose silence over courage. And for that, I beg your forgiveness. Clara's tears fell freely now. All those years, Mama, all those birthdays and holidays, you smiled with us, but you were broken inside. How could you carry this and never tell us? David's voice was cold, but his eyes shimmered. Mama, we thought we knew you, but you lived a lie. How are we supposed to trust you again? I turned to them, my children, my blood. Because love is not erased by mistakes. I failed Michael, but I never stopped loving him. I never stopped loving either of you. My silence was not because I loved you less, but because I was afraid you would stop loving me. For a long moment, none of them spoke. Michael's jaw clenched, his chest rising and falling with uneven breaths. At last, his voice broke, raw and trembling. I don't know if I can forgive you. Not today. But I can't deny it. When I look at you, I see myself. And maybe I need to know you, even if it hurts. Clara fell to her knees beside me, taking my trembling hands. Mama, you should have told us. But I see your pain now. I see the mother who sacrificed everything, and I can't hate you. David stood rigid, then slowly exhaled. His voice softened. Mama, you broke us with your silence. But maybe honesty can begin to mend us. Just don't hide again. Not ever. I wept, my frail body trembling as I reached for all three of them. The children I bore, the child I lost, the family fractured by truth but bound by blood. My darlings, I whispered, listen to me. Life is too short to waste on silence. Speak your truths before it's too late. Love loudly, even when it hurts, because nothing is heavier than words unsaid, and nothing is lonelier than love unspoken. In that moment, the weight I had carried for a lifetime slipped from my shoulders. Not gone, but lighter, because at last it was shared. And as Michael's hand slowly, hesitantly, closed over mine, I knew forgiveness would not come quickly, trust would not be easy. But for the first time in decades, we had a chance to begin again.